Thank you, God, for the opportunity to make another video. Welcome back to the MoneyPot Channel. And in this video, we are discussing how we can best prepare for a recession. Let's get into the video.
Are you okay?
Here in June, we are entering the last month in quarter two. Depending on the economic report that the government puts out, we could be entering a recession, which means that a lot of pandemonium is going to start happening. Earlier last month, I put out a video talking about, are we in a recession here in 2022? As we enter into quarter two, it's looking more and more likely that we are entering into a recession. So that has led me to wanting to create a video on how to prepare for the incoming recession that we're seeing here in the United States. Before we get into the video, I would really appreciate it if you subscribed and liked to the MoneyPot channel. All sorts of engagement is truly appreciated. And go ahead and check me out on some of my other social media platforms. Now, recessions are, the painful part of every economic cycle. Depending on if we're going into this recession or not, it's extremely important to have a plan in place so that you ensure that your financial situation is able to remain relatively stable to where you're currently at. And when we hear the words recession and depression, it's so easy to think about the worst that could come. And I really think that is important to do while preparing for a recession. Think of, worst case, maybe you were to lose your job, or maybe, prices are so high that you can't afford many things. It's important to put your perspective into a worst case scenario to be able to best prepare for what may get thrown at us with a recession. One key thing to do is to anticipate your needs over the next 6 months. I'm gonna talk about this deeper throughout this video, but anticipating your needs is going to be key, especially over the next 6 months. The first tip I wanna talk about in regards to preparing for a recession is getting rid of expensive debt. Now, when I say expensive debt, I'm talking about credit card debt that has a high interest rate as well as a balance that is carrying over month over month. If you did not know, the credit card company is making money on that interest that they're charging you because you're carrying a balance. So if you have a high interest rate credit card, say with $1,000 as a balance, and it's at 17%, that credit card company is making $170 off of you every single month. That is a lot of money. Get rid of that expensive debt. Focus on paying that debt off first and prioritize that debt over the debt that has a lower interest rate. Typically, debts that have lower interest rates include student loans or potentially a car note or your mortgage. Those have lower interest rates and they're not gonna cost you as much in interest in comparison to those credit cards that have extremely high interest. Do you guys see a recession coming here soon? Drop some comments below. Let me know what you're thinking. The next best way to prepare yourself for the incoming recession is to have some gosh dang cash handy, okay? You need to have an emergency fund set up so that you are able to live off of the amount of money in this emergency fund for at least 3 to 6 months. Like I said earlier, you want to be thinking worst case scenario. Say you do lose your job. What are you going to do if you have, 3 months of expenses that need to be paid for? You need to have an emergency fund set up so that you are not having to go into debt and potentially high interest rated debt just to live, because eventually that debt is going to become due. Best case is you get 6 months of living expenses in an account where you can access it easily and be able to support you and your family. It's extremely important to have cash on hand to prepare for a recession. If you can't create this emergency fund with the 3 to 6 months of living expenses that you need, then it is time to find another way to start saving money. Seriously, No more excuses. You don't want to be in a bad situation when the recession has already hit and everyone is already acting all crazy, okay? Go out and either get creative. Find some sort of side hustle that you can use to start making money on the side. Figure out some ways that you can decrease the amount of expenditures that you're having on a monthly basis. Or just go get another job. Work third shift, lose some sleep. Your family stability during a recession is more important than some of the wants that you want. Last tip I want to share in regards to preparing for an economic recession is assessing your financial priorities, okay? If you're not already, you need to have a budget in place to understand all of your expenditures on a monthly basis. And with assessing your financial priorities, look at your budget and see where your basic monthly living expenses are. Food, shelter, transportation, childcare. Those are types of things that are basic and have to be included in the budget. But things such as maybe your cable bill or entertainment bill or going out to eat or travel is not a basic monthly living expenditure. Assess how much debt you currently have. It's important to know how much debt you have on the books so that you can really start on a repayment plan. And going back to the first tip I shared, you want to make sure that you're knocking out that high interest rate debt so that you're not paying the lender more than what you really owe. And then lastly, ask yourself the question, how much cash do I have on hand and how much do I have access to? Worst come the worst. You lose your job. You got your rent that has to be due. You need to put food on the table. How much cash do you have to be able to sustain your lifestyle and your family if it comes down to that? These are things that are extremely important to be thinking about with a recession coming up. So as I wrap up this video, I want to just go briefly over the tips that I shared throughout this video. First, get rid of any sorts of expensive debt. Get rid of those high interest rate credit cards and make sure your priority is paying those off. Next, make sure you have some cash on hand. Make sure you have an emergency fund that can sustain you for at least 3 to 6 months of your living expenses. Lastly is assess your financial position and where you're currently at. How much debt do you have? How much cash on hand do you have? How will you be able to sustain yourself if the worst case scenario happens to you in your situation? I hope that you were able to find this video beneficial. Drop some comments below on something that you learned and anything that I may have missed for others. Like, dislike, share, subscribe. Do what you do, but I appreciate you. And until next video, stay blessed, stay healthy, stay prayed up. Peace.